Hello.
Hey, is this Jack?
It is Jack. Dustin?
This is Dustin. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. You?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time out with us.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll introduce you to my co-host, Ton.
Hey, Jack. How you doing?
Tom, how are you?
I am real good. We're happy to have you on the line here. I can't wait to get into this. I'm excited.
Happy to be here.
It's going to be good. If you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, let's do it.
So talk to us, I guess, about your early career. Did you actually start out as a musician?
I did. I started out, I had my first rock and roll band when I was about 16 years old. I was always, I was a singer, and a friend of mine came back from a block party, and he said, "Hey man, some guy's down in the basement. He's got a band, but he's got no singer. So what do you think?" And went down there. We did a couple of Led Zeppelin songs, and before you know it, within 2 years, I picked up a guitar, and then I started my own bands, and and then I started working at Atlantic Records, toured with groups like Foreigner, and worked with Chaka Khan and Hall & Oates and all that kind of stuff, and then I got Porky's, which was my very first feature film.
Now, just hold on now, Jack. You can't just be glossing over Chaka Khan and Foreigner and just Porky. Come on now, this is ridiculous.
Okay, so a lot of my career has come as the result of being a ball player as well. And I was playing for the Atlantic Records softball team, and one guy said, "Hey man, if you want to, you can come and be a studio rat and do various things, and then you can barter your time for like recording time." And this was when the old studio recording was at 60th Street and Broadway, so it was directly across the way from Central Park, which is where we played all our softball games. And we would repair to a bar called Martin's afterwards, every Tuesday evening, and, just shoot the shit. And then all these bands would come in. Brian Ferry would come in, and Peter Tosh would come in, and the Stones would be there. I remember escorting Mick Jagger to a club, called Hurrahs, because he didn't know Broadway at all. Just like,
yeah, wow.
So many wild things that have happened in my early on career. Yeah.
That's crazy. So it literally, it just kind of fell into your lap, and you just kind of went with it. I mean, how did you end up on tour or working with these groups? Like you mentioned, Foreigner and Chaka Khan.
Well, what happened with Foreigner is that I was in the studio listening to some of my recordings. And it was like really, really late at night. And Mick Jones came in, and, I'd known these guys as if, they were just like friends or just employers. And they asked if I would consider, going on the road with them as a background vocalist. And this is for the Double Vision Hot Blooded tour.
Wow.
75, 76 or something like that. And, I thought he was fucking around with me at first. I was like, "Come on, Mick." And he says to me, he goes, "Can you get permission from your mom?"
Wow. Oh, that is awesome. What a story, and what a time to do that.
Yeah, and and it gave me the first glimpse of how a big record machine is behind their hottest act, because, we could do no wrong. We could ask for everything in the world and get it. And it was kind of like pretty out of body experience, otherworldly kind of stuff. So
that's crazy. Now, you mentioned Chaka Khan. I'm a big fan of hers. What era did you work with her, and in what capacity? Can you elaborate?
We're probably talking about early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
Everything for me is pre-Porky's and post-Porky's, right? So, and I shot Porky's in 81, and my music career pretty much just went, it took a backseat. I'm still a singer, and we'll talk about Rem Lezar too, which is like kind of cool.
Yeah.
So working with Chaka Khan is kind of like, it's a little dubious because I was basically a studio rat. So I would do whatever I was at her beck and call.
Yeah.
She also said that I had the best ass of any white boy she'd ever seen in her life.
Oh, nice.
And she was always so wonderful. She would come in and she had She was almost always on roller skates,
Oh,
up
wow.
and down the hallways, and just like doing her thing. And she was just like such a love and such a light. And my God, what a set of pipes she had!
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So how did you make the switch to acting?
Well, as it turns out, my next door neighbor, my very, very next door neighbor, I'm in apartment 8A. He lives in 8B. His name is Gary Gotch. He was associate producer for Bob Clark for many years on a lot of his B movies. You know, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things and Black Christmas. And I had occasion to meet Bob several times, you know, in my, late teens, early 20s. And he had asked Gary if I was an actor. And Gary goes, no, I know Jack's a musician. And Bob said, when I get the money to do Porky's, that kid's going to be in it. And sure enough, like 8 years later, he called me and he said, hey, do you want to come down to Florida and get some acting lessons? Be kind of a glorified background guy and, see if you even like it. And sure enough, I go down there, and after 2 days, people at 20th Century Fox liked me so much in the rushes that they told Bob to write me in the script, and I was immediately going to become a Screen Actors Guild member.
Wow.
So if you know the film, right? Do you know the film at all?
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, well, during the shack scene where we all think that we're going to have a gangbang with Cherry forever, that's when Bob walked up to me. I'm totally balls-ass naked, and he goes, oh, by the way, 20th Century Fox liked you. We're writing you into the entire script. So from this moment on, you have your SAG card. And he walks away. And I turn to the actor next to me, Cyril O'Reilly, and I go, what the fuck just happened? And he looks at me and he just goes, fuck you, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, there I am 100 films and television shows later. Yeah. The thing went on to make $200 million. I'm still getting fucking residual checks from it. So
Wow,
it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that film was really, for your first film, that was the one that really kind of created an entire genre. I mean, films are still kind of using that as the template here all these years later.
They are. I mean, American Pie and even Barry Levinson was kind of on the fence. He didn't want to release Diner until he saw the success of Porky's, and then he eventually did. So,
wow,
it was a touchstone. Yeah, it was a touchstone, and it's. But the other side of that blade is that thinking that this is easy, I can do this all the time, right?
Sure.
Because we shot the scene, and I'll never forget the kid who played Meat, Tony Gagnos, calling me up. From Colorado. They had done a test screening in Colorado Springs, and I could hear all this laughter in the background. I go, Tony, what's up? And he goes, hey, little buddy, we're fucking heroes. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, listen to this. He holds the phone up, and people are just laughing their asses off. And he goes, we're shooting the sequel in June, man. See you later. Click.
Wow. That's
and this
crazy.
Before the film even released, yeah. So they knew, and so the budget went from $1.5 million to $9 million.
Jeez.
And then the second film only made $90 million. So go figure, right?
Yeah.
But I had a bigger part in that, and I was well on my way, and then I went back to my music for quite a bit, and and just kept grinding.
Well, you've got to. You mentioned it already. You really got to tell us what is up with Rem Lezar and how did that even happen? Please just. I feel like you're the golden key. You have the answers to all the question marks.
I have all the answers,
and I just can't wait to hear them.
Well. It happened that, I went back into my rock and roll roots. So we're talking about 86 or 87. I don't think it got released until 88 or something like that. And so all my flowing locks, that was all my hair at the time. And I was at a wedding, of all things, a wedding in an apartment. And this gentleman named Phil Meyerowitz approached me and he said, hey, listen, man, he says, I understand that you're a singer and a rock and roller. I've got a friend of mine who's been looking for this character, and it's like a children's fantasy movie. And I'm like, oh, a musical? And he goes, yeah. And I go, Oh, okay. He says he's out in Long Island. I can arrange a meeting. And so I said, yeah. So let's definitely do this. So I went out and I met with Scott Zakarin, and I met with the composer Mark Mulcahy. And I really, I got a sense of the whole thing. And then it started to come together. I saw storyboards and I saw costuming and all this kind of stuff. And all of that stuff aside, for me, it was the music that made me say yes. Because the tunes were, because I'd done Broadway stuff and I'd done all that kind of stuff and I'd done rock and roll. And I just think that music is, really, really powerful for messaging. And I felt that if we could capture exactly what was being written on that page, on that music page, and I could bring it to life, that we'd have something there. And we could really, and Mark was really wonderful in the studio. I actually recorded the entire soundtrack in one day.
Crazy.
All my vocals were in one day. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And I had to match the children because the children had recorded their stuff first because they had been looking for the guy to play Rem for the longest time. But they found the kids first, and it's the rest is history, as they say.
So, when's the last time you've watched it?
Well, now that we are in the process of re-releasing it.
Oh, wow.
So we have got a 1080 HD version of it now. And now we are we're going to launch a Kickstarter campaign pretty soon, probably on my birthday, which is Earth Day, April 22nd.
Oh, wow.
And because we want to create the website, and we're also going to be doing launches with incentives, and we're looking towards doing an animated feature.
Crazy. Wow.
Yeah, so all this stuff is pretty much, the first time being heard. And I've gotten I've been reached out to by Vinny Vinesauce and the Red Letter Media guys. And so once this, we're taking it one step at a time, getting everything in place. We've got a website that we're building right now. We have an LLC, Rem Lezar Media, all this kind of stuff. And it's just really incredible how this has gotten a new life, right? Because they only printed I think something like, God, I want to say 10,000 copies of the VHS.
Interesting.
And then when it popped onto the internet, it was the generation that grew up with it is now internet savvy, and all of a sudden somebody put it up there and it just exploded. And then when I heard that Red Letter Media it took hold of it and voted it best of the worst. I was like, really? People started sending me links. My star meter went up to 3,800 or something like that. I was going, well, it's usually been pretty good, but I've never cracked 5,000.
Wow.
What the hell's going on? Yeah,
So I have to ask. I guess maybe I'm having trouble finding the words. What was the people that wrote this film?
Yes.
What was their intentions? So I don't know how much Dusty has talked to you about it.
Not at all.
Okay, so on our show, The 5 Count, we have some other things that we do, the 5 Count Co-op, which is on YouTube, and then we also do a thing just for Patreon called the 5 Count at the Movies, and it's basically Dusty and I, and we're watching a movie, and then we talk about it as we're watching it. Mm-hmm. So we did Creating Rem Lezar. We watched that, and we talked about it as we watched it. And we watch it cold. I knew nothing about the film. Dusty said, "Here's what it is, okay," and this is now we're watching it. Okay. So the whole time I'm going what was this created for? Is this a film that someone just had this ultimate vision and they made it, or was it supposed to circulate like the school system and touch on children learning? And it even has said there's a psychology piece or something. There was a psychology company that they listed at the end credits that was involved, or some a special thanks. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
So
so the vision you had was quixotic vision, But anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was a one-off basically, and it was a one-off for an after-school special. And Scott always, felt, this is basically what he was going through when he was a child. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to make friends, and he had a fear of the dark, right? So he put those two characteristics into the two characters, the boy and the girl, and, we brought them to life. And Scott did have a very, very active imagination when he was a child. I don't know whether it was manifesting, a Rem Lezar or a superhero or a hero of any kind, but that was basically what it was all about. For me at the time, it was just a gig. Yeah. And I've become, more and more fond of it as the day goes, because I think it, as weird and bizarre as it is just a very sweet project.
It really is.
In today's day and age, I think we can use an awful lot more of that shit.
Yeah. I think you're right, and I will even say, I'm probably, well, I'm most definitely probably younger than you, but I still grew up within the '80s enough that the things that are touched on by those children, and specifically the way the parents, the way the adult figures treat the children, was very real. Yeah. I can remember all of that stuff very vividly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's relatable. It's understandable that people would have connected with it. Was it mostly on the East Coast, like on television, or do you know that it hit national? Because I was unaware of it, being in the Midwest.
Do you know? I think cable at that point was so in its early stages that if it did get any kind of run, I think maybe Showtime ran it once or something like that. But as I said, the limited amount of copies that were made and distributed, they sold out. And, I think the last I saw, it's $500 on eBay to find a fucking VHS. Oh, no. Kind of crazy. But we shot it all here in New York and upstate New York. And it took about 5 or 6 days, I believe. When I first went to Rosemary Ponzo's apartment to try on the outfit, it was kind of wild and transformative. And once she put that cape on me, it was just, and I still had Polaroids from it, and it's kind of cool. And we're going to package that in the deal, when we re-release this kind of stuff, because we've also got about 4.5 hours of BTS footage, right? That they shot while we were shooting. And it's kind of really insane to go back to 1988, right?
Yeah.
And reminisce, and then find out, lo, these many years later, that it has affected so many people, because you kind of forget about this stuff. But here's a very, very interesting story. I was doing a play, an off-Broadway play, and the woman who was playing my wife, we had a really, really good run and a very good rapport, almost right away. And, about maybe 3 or 4 months after the play ended, I started posting some pictures of Rem Lezar. And she writes to me, she goes, "Jack, what is it about this Rem Lezar stuff?" And I said, "Well, I am Rem Lezar." And she goes, "Oh my fucking God." She goes, "I saw that when I was a child."
Oh, wow.
So she goes, "No wonder I felt so incredibly warm towards you."
Oh, yeah. Wow.
I mean, it was so bizarre.
That is awesome.
And it was just something out of you can't make this shit up, right? So.
Wow. That blows me away. That's hilarious.
It was mind blowing, yeah. And she was of that age, at the time. So, wow, very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's great that you are so open, with talking about the film. Obviously, at the time, I'm sure you couldn't have imagined that it would become, way more popular 30 plus years later. But, that could have been easy for you to just kind of keep it buried on those 10,000 VHS copies. But.
Well, I mean, not so much buried as much as just forgotten about, right?
Yeah.
It's you move on, you have careers, I did a $15,000 film that went on to, make $40 million and win Best Picture at Sundance. So that's, it's
Yeah.
the brothers McMullen, it was like the indie darling. That was like the standard for indie film for like the next dozen years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like all these kinds of things and everything you do in your career, right? Whether it's good or bad or, panned or exalted, it brings you to where you are now. And I feel that I'm a much better actor. I'm definitely a much better singer than I ever was because I have life to my voice, right? It's not just, the pure talent of being able to sing, being able to interpret, and not just that, but, as an actor, you're able to interpret an awful lot better because of your life experience.
Well, I appreciate your attitude around it and being open to that, because I can tell you, even on this program, we've talked to some other actors who have done, I would say, about equally as big kind of cult classics as Porky's, and have very different attitudes, even about their roles in those films. And it's unbelievable sometimes when you encounter that, because it's like, listen, you did that, and it just, like, feel good about it and move on with life, Own it up. So that is awesome. So talk to us about, you have done quite a bit more since then. What are some of the favorite roles you've played? Even including Broadway.
Well, you can throw in all my Law and Orders, because you're not a New York actor unless you've done every single Law and Order, right? Just SVU, Criminal Intent, the original. I even used to joke, I'm just waiting for them to have a new one, Law and Order, parking tickets and misdemeanors, But that franchise never came to fruition. But no, I've had so many other really, really fine roles. Jack McMullen in The Brothers McMullen was like amongst my favorite roles ever, because he got to explore not my own personal thing, but observing people who had experienced those kinds of disruptions in their lives. Mm-hmm. Cheating on their spouses and brothers who are like, trying to, glom off of you and all that kind of stuff. And for us to be rejected by everybody, and then all of a sudden accepted by Sundance. What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, we go to Sundance, we figure, maybe we'll win an Audience Appeal Award, because it was a very charming thing. But as the buzz grew and grew and grew the entire week at Sundance, it was kind of like, oh my God, this thing could really. And it was Samuel L. Jackson who announced us being the winners, which was,
yeah.
and the day of, and I had met Sam and played softball with him in the Broadway Show League when he was doing Once on This Island. And so I saw him on the street at Sundance, and I said, "Oh, so tonight's the ceremonies, man. What do you think?" Because I knew he was on the jury. He was on the panel. And he looks at me and he goes, I said, "Sam, Jack Mulcahy." He goes, "Man, I know who you are, motherfucker."
That's awesome.
And I said, "So tonight?" And he goes, "Yeah, what about it?" And I go, "Anything?" He goes, "Good luck." And he winks at me. He walks away. I go, "Sam, that could mean any fucking thing."
Wow. What a guy. That is awesome.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah. And especially at that time, you like, if it would feel like you can't have an exchange with him without an MF being thrown in there.
Exactly.
At that time period.
And to be called motherfucker by Sam L. Jackson is like a compliment of the highest order.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
So, yeah, but there was another role that I did that I won quite a few awards for, and it was I played the devil. I played Lucifer in a comedy called The Jersey Devil. Mm. And the premise is that Lucifer, has gotten too old, and he loses his job due to term limits. And the new devil takes over, and he's moving hell to its new location in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Oh, boy.
And I am having none of it. So I try and foil his entire plan. But, I've been out of the game too long, and I'm just a fumbling, dumbling fool. And so I dressed like Pacino and Devil's Advocate, and I played like Judge Smales in Caddyshack.
This sounds amazing.
So if you can find it, you can probably find it on Amazon. The Jersey Devil. It's fucking funny as shit.
I will definitely be looking for that.
And I had a recent guest star on Blue Bloods. It was great working with Tom Selleck and the crew over there, very professional. And I've got a thing right now called Girl Boxer, where I play a former IRA, Irish Republican Army member, who's back here in America, and he starts a female fight club, bare knuckle brawling. And the Russian mob is involved, and there's so many things going on with it. And that thing has won 22 awards so far.
It's topical,
on the festival circuit.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty topical. Yeah. So these are, things, and these are things that I've just done in the recent past, even with COVID. So
that's awesome. Well, that's great. Yeah. We will definitely be looking out for it.
Yeah, please do.
Jack, you mentioned the Rem Lezar, the fundraiser. Can you go over the details on that again?
Not as yet, but I will hit you guys back once we have everything in place. I was supposed to have a conference with Scott and Mark like last week, but unfortunately Scott contracted COVID.
Oh, okay.
He's in San Diego, so he's recovering, and we were going full tilt boogie. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing, I think he wants to do a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe, but it's just to set up the website professionally so that everything goes without a hitch, where people can gather and people can like comment and people can, feel that they are part of the experience. And they'll get to talk to Rem, directly, chat and stuff like that. And then we're going to incentivize it. We also, and this is my harebrained scheme, I really want Converse All-Stars to like place the gold Converse.
Yeah.
Man,
that would be something. Wow.
I know.
They'll sell too.
T-shirts are definitely a must, right? And then we can go into pajamas and we can go to lunch pails and all that kind of shit. Because the generation that grew up with Rem, their kids love it. Those who do have the VHS or those who do, click on the links on YouTube, their kids absolutely love it. And that makes me feel really good.
Yeah, that is nice.
Is it possible the soundtrack could maybe be made available at some point?
Absolutely. And I have this software now that we're digitized that I can yank. I yanked "Reach with Your Heart" off the film, and it's like its own little MP3 right now, and it's kind of cool that I can just send that to people without any of the visuals. And people are like, "Oh my God, this is," and that was the thing about, we were kind of worried about, losing some of the quality when we went to digital, but it was even better, which is kind of strange.
Awesome.
And we got a 480 version, and now we got a 1080 version. So,
yeah, we'd love to play some of that stuff on the show if we could.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, I know you got a lot of stuff going on, and according to your IMDb, you got, I don't know if that's always factual, but it looked like maybe a half dozen films in post-production. Yeah. So sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on. That's awesome. Yeah,
there's an awful lot. There's some on the back burner, there's some on the near back burner, there's some close to like burning your fingers, and it's all a question of being able to prioritize and compartmentalize and say, okay, this will need some time, but we have been concentrating an awful lot of our effort on the Rem relaunch, the Renaissance, as I call it.
Nice.
21st century Rem.
Excellent. Again, thank you so much for your time and for being cool with Rem Lezar. I know it's at the time that was kind of what was going on. When people look at it now and you can kind of laugh at it, but that was really kind of the style back then. It totally made sense.
Yeah, I'll never forget one director called me out of the blue. I was about to go into a screening of some sort, and all of a sudden I see this thing. And so I answered as, hey, it could be an agent or something like that. And so he goes, hey, man, my name's Dino Petranis, and I just rented out a theater in Los Angeles, and we just sold out 400 seats. And I go, yeah, for what? He goes, for Creating Rem Lezar. I'm like, going, you got to be fucking kidding me.
Was he asking? Did he ask you to show up for it?
Yeah, he did want me to show up. I said, well, if you fly me out, I'll
Oh, man.
definitely go out there. But he didn't have the money for that. So
Wow.
anyway, but then he starts asking me, he goes, hey, man, he says, so did you guys know when you were shooting this thing how avant-garde it was going to be and how you set up the shots and the cool, like, you know, cuts? And I said, dude, I got to tell you, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
Yeah. Oh,
Which
yes.
is probably why it came out the way that it did.
Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
What a time. Well, you've got a blessed life.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dustin. You guys are great.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. And let us know the details when you figure them out, and we'll definitely spread the word for you.
Oh, we certainly will, man. It'll be you'll be among the first to know. Thank you for the reach out.
All right, you bet. Thank you so much, Jack. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Take care.